Welcome to VCC Connection. My name is Ray, and I want to share with you today a devotional that I'm reading from Watchman Nee called Table in the Wilderness. And his verse for this devotional is Psalm 118, verse 27. Bind the sacrifice with cords, even onto the horns of the altar. And he writes, "For what purpose were burnt offerings placed on the altar of Jehovah? To be wholly consumed to God. While the animal offered might be a bullock or a sheep or a dove according to the offerer's resources, the invariable requirement was that it should be a whole burnt offering. For God does not accept less than an utter consecration." Today, what the altar signifies is not doing for God, but being for God. Let me read that sentence again to you. Today, what the altar signifies is not doing for God, but being for God. He desires not our work, but ourselves. Unlike the sacrifices of the Old Testament, which were immolated in one final act, the New Testament sacrifice is a living sacrifice. The meaning of the altar is the offering of our lives to God to be ever consumed, yet ever living. To be ever living, yet ever consumed. We don't often think about, I'm going to be a living sacrifice for God. Lots of times we think, oh, what can I do for God? You know, where can I serve Him? How can I please Him? What can I do? And Watchman says, it's not the doing, it's the being. Am I willing to just lay down everything, and let it be consumed by the fire of God? Well, what does that mean? Well, I think two things. It means, one, we are consumed by His fire. We are, like we like to say, on fire for God. You know, let's tell people about Him. Let's bring the good news. Let's pray for people. Let's see God move. Let's be on fire. And that's awesome, where all of our life is just for Him. But I also think of being consumed by the fire of God as Him consuming that which doesn't belong to me, which doesn't give Him honor, that doesn't give Him respect or love. That needs to be consumed. Am I willing to lay myself on the altar and let His fire consume that in me? And I'm not, well, I guess I am talking about sin, but I'm thinking in my own life of my doubts, my fears, my unwillingness, my selfishness. Those are sins, because those aren't who God is. And I'm to be in the exact image of Him. Those need to be consumed. Am I willing to lay myself on the altar? I went to a conference years ago with my husband. And during the conference, they asked us if we would be willing to lay ourselves on the altar for God. You know, let Him have completely everything of ourselves. And if so, to come down to the front. So I made my way to the front and I stood there. It was individuals, just, you did it yourself. It wasn't someone praying with you. And I stood there to God and said to Him, I want to do this. I want to put myself on the altar and be consumed by you, be all yours. And he said, really, Ray? Do you really want to do that? And I said, yeah, I do. I really do. And then in my mind's eye, I saw a piece of paper come in front of me, and God said, well, here's a contract. Will you sign it? Saying that this is what you'll do. And I hesitated. And I said, okay, if I sign it, though, what'll it cost me? And he said, we'll talk about it later. Let's just sign it. So I signed it. The paper disappeared. And I stood there going, okay, I'm yours, Father, I'm yours. Well, I found out later how much this is going to cost me to be this living sacrifice on the altar. It's costing me everything. It's costing me everything. My life, I've learned, is really not mine. It's Father's. And he can do whatever he wants with it. And that means, if it means raising 3 kids and helping to take care of grandchildren, if it means working for years to help put my kids through school, if it means teaching a Bible study for decades, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what my life looks like. It's what Father wants. And am I willing to let that be? And that has cost me. To lay things down and say, no, I can't do that. That's not what Father wants from me. I want to be for him. I don't want to do for him. So I encourage you this week, take some time with Father. Talk about this if you want. See what he has to say to you, what you have to say to him. And then make the decision to be that living sacrifice. To lay everything down and let him be all in all. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.